is now the right time for you to start your webcomic.
I am so excited. Webtoon is finally hosting another large-scale contest, a call to action. Things might be a little bit different this time as far as how the criteria goes, so I looked into it. It looks like everything's going to have to be in English and in full color. And this time, we only get one episode to impress everybody. And because the theme is action, of course, we need to have two characters go head-to-head in an absolutely awesome fight. It looks like we still have plenty of time to plan and create for this. Submissions aren't due until June 1st, and you have all the way until July 31st really to enter. And then the winners are going to be announced September 30th. The way things are going to be judged is through like 40% audience engagement and then 60% like the actual judge panel. It looks like it's going to be broken down like this. Like 10 points get awarded towards your narrative, which is making sure that you have a strong plot and strong characters. Another 10 points goes towards readability, because obviously Webtoon wants to make sure that things are super readable on your phone. Next is 10 points for clarity, which is making sure that your story is easily consumable. And then a whopping 30 points gets put towards your action execution. So we're talking like your action, like choreography, the pace of your fight, and making sure that you have high impact dynamic panels. And then the prizes. It's really exciting. Like even the honorable mentions get a pretty awesome prize, like the Clip Studio paint license. I thought that was pretty cool. The 4th through the 10th place people get $5,000. Third place gets $20,000. Second place gets $30,000. And first place gets an insane $50,000. In the first 3 slots, you actually get to pitch your idea to Webtoon to get, a sponsored original. And the very first top place gets to be in like an animated short. It's so exciting. I don't know. I think something about this fighting contest is like igniting my shonen spirit. I'm so excited. I feel like I want to join this battle with everybody. Who's going to be my rival? Who's going to be on my team? I'm just so excited. Also, big shout out to Chainsaw Maniac and Wild Nita. You guys super inspired me to even start this channel because I'm so excited about all of this. Okay, now on to, the other stuff. I don't know. How do I transition?
So now that you know everything about the upcoming contest, the question is now the right time for you to start your webcomic? Well, if you were to ask me, I would say yes. It doesn't matter what the genre is or how long you've been working on it, you should absolutely start your webcomic because now is always the right time. It kind of feels sometimes that you can forever be in the planning stage. I know for myself, I have some stories that I've been thinking about for years. And I just kind of get tied up in the idea that, oh, I just need to work on it a little bit more. This should be developed a little bit more. Or maybe my character designs aren't just quite right. Nothing is going to be perfect unless you perfect it. So to give yourself a challenge or a goal like this, that by a certain date and time, you are going to have one episode that is going to capture your audience, that's an excellent place to start. Because no matter how many tutorials you see, like all of those things are definitely helpful, but nothing is as good a teacher as actual experience. I know when we started our first webcomic, we had put a lot of time into the research stage because we were so afraid of messing up, right? I think that's totally natural. Nobody wants to waste time. And when you put your blood, sweat, and tears into your art, you don't want to have wasted it. But realistically, we can't look at it like that, okay? Any time that you put into practice in your skill, it's not wasted, okay? Every time you do something like that, you are getting better. So even if nobody sees it or it didn't get as popular as that you wanted to, next time you make a comic, you are going to be a stronger comic writer. And that was worth it. So maybe try to readjust your goals. Now, I myself can be a little bit competitive and I can use that to my advantage in this point. I want to get in there in the fight and go toe to toe with other artists because I feel like that's fun. But if that doesn't like get your fire going, that's okay. I mean, I personally am excited to see everybody's work, regardless if it's a part of the contest or not. Now, again, whether you're going about this because you're going to join the battle or if you're just coming along for the ride, I would suggest that you kind of get yourself into the idea that you're going to be coming into your story and you're only going to have those 60, maybe a little bit more panels to really capture your audience. I think that if you're looking for a little bit of tips and tricks on how to kind of tackle this project, I would say let's start with brain dumping. Brain dumping is pretty much just taking all of those thoughts and daydreams that you've had in your head for a questionable amount of time and getting them down on paper or on your computer, all in one spot. Either make a Google document or maybe designate a certain sketchbook or notebook to having everything there. And keep that with you always. So whether it's attached to your phone or that sketchbook is going to be constantly attached to your hand, okay? Don't let it go. Second, once you've gone through everything and dumped everything out, hopefully that'll give you some relief that you're not going to forget anything, okay? So then you're going to go through, you could potentially organize it a little bit depending on how your brain works, like put all of your character descriptions in one spot, all of your story ideas in another spot, your overall timeline in another spot. But after you get to that, cherry pick what is going to be in your first episode. Now, I know we're kind of tempted to begin with, once upon a time, right? Introducing your character slowly or introducing the world as well. But when you only have the 60 panels, we have to make sure that we are giving as much punch to our story as possible. I think that comic book writers and readers are extremely intelligent, and you should give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to pick up on your cues, right? A lot of people will say show don't tell, which is a great, thought process for any sort of visual media. Anything that you can potentially strip from the wording and put into your visuals, the better. Now, from here, I'm going to say there's a couple of things that you can do, and it kind of is a personal preference on what order you do it in. Firstly, I would talk about like the skeleton. I know some people do not like to have a very strict script for their comic making because sometimes it robs some of the spontaneity out of it, and I totally get that, totally. But if you are one of those people, I still highly suggest that you do what I would call a skeleton. A skeleton is just the bare bones of the story, right? You know that you're going to have about 60 panels, and for me, I think for a scene, 10 to 15 panels is a pretty solid how much you need to establish and end a scene, right? Unless it's super, super brief. So in using that, think about this is how many story beats I'm going to have in my first episode and how many panels I kind of have to allot for that, right? If you are going to be a part of the contest, remember, because this is an action contest, you're going to want to have a good chunk of your panels really dedicated to that fight scene. And remember that key wording that they want storytelling within the fight. It can't just be a couple of punches, right? There's got to be some expression of your character in the way that they fight or how they, really have to pull it within themselves to combat whatever it is that they're coming up against. So make sure that you're having those skeleton spots, those beats, so that way when you're thumbnailing, and now we're coming to the next spot, you're going to come to your thumbnailing part of your script or your skeleton. But when you do this, my suggestion to you is to not be too precious. Like, very seriously, do not get too much in your head about thumbnailing. I don't know anybody so far, maybe I just have a really limited amount of friends, that's really good at thumbnailing. I think that it's something that has to kind of be sculpted out. So go ahead, thumbnail once, and kind of understand that that's probably not going to be your final draft. keep it super simple. Don't even put any details in the characters. Just write down what the background's supposed to be. And then for your characters themselves, you don't even have to fully draw them out. They can be essentially like stick figures with just a little symbol that lets you know what character it is. Like putting a crown on your main character, or like a curly Q mustache on the bad guy. So that way you're not spending too much time on it. Once you kind of go through your whole thumbnail for your script, then you can be like, you know what? This would be punchier if we zoomed in, or this would be cooler if like it broke through the frame, right? So then you can go back and edit it just like you'd be editing any other sort of writing. Okay, then next, we're gonna talk about character design. Now, I love character design. I feel like that's the funnest part of writing a comic, but it also can be kind of a time dump, you know what I mean? Because you can get so into your character because you know everything about them, right? Like you would know exactly what shirt that they would choose and what sort of shoes that they would prefer, and like, you know, this rip across their shoulder that happened when they were a kid or something like that. Like all of that sort of stuff can go into storytelling. However, I would suggest that you pull that back just a little bit, because when you have to draw something 60 or 70 times, it has to be somewhat simple. And it has to be easily digestible. Like, I'm sure everybody is familiar with like old school Final Fantasy designs where they have tons of belts and cool jackets on top of tank tops on top of ripped shirts. And that looks freaking sweet. It does. But when you're a comic book artist, you gotta draw that shit over and over again. And you have to give yourself a break. Web comics have to come out on a slow, steady pace, and you have to give yourself kind of that forgiveness to not make it so hard on yourself, okay? And treat yourself to some like cool fan art style of your own work, right? Like you can have a really cool outfit that you do in like character splash art, but when it's in the comic, there's a more simplified version. That's my suggestion. And then, that's how I would start. That's how I am starting. And if you're interested in more tips or seeing more of my journey, I hope that you'll follow and subscribe and hit the little bell. And hey, unshrimp your back, okay? We all do it. All right, see ya.